Did you know you can find volume without memorizing any formulas? When you take a two-dimensional shape and you stack it, you create a three-dimensional solid. So to find the volume of any prism or cylinder, you just take the area of that base and you multiply it by the height. Let's check out some examples. Every prism and cylinder has a base, and that shape is preserved all the way through the solid. Now remember, the volume for these is the base times the height, so let's see that in action. In this first example, we can see that our base is a rectangle, and it is a rectangle through and through. So that makes this shape a rectangular prism. Now to find the volume, we take the area of the space and we're going to multiply it by the height. Because the base is a rectangle, we need to do length times width to find the area, and we're going to multiply it by the height. So basically this 6x4 rectangle is being stacked 3 times, and we get 72 centimeters. Because the area is already squared, when we multiply that third dimension, we get cubed for volume. So the volume of this rectangular prism is 72 cubic centimeters. In this example, our base is a square, a 2x2 square that's being stacked 8 times. So the volume is base times height, and since the base is a square, we need to do length times width times the height of the solid. So a square that's 2x2 is stacked 8 times for a total volume of 32 cubic meters. Now another way to look at this is a rectangular prism laying on its side. Even if you looked at it this way, you would still be multiplying 8 by 2 by 2, and you would still get 32. So it really doesn't matter for rectangular and square prisms because you're multiplying the same 3 values either way. Moving on to our third example, we'll see that we have a cube. Because the base is a square all the way through, but where your base is a 5 by 5 square, it's also been stacked 5 times. The volume is still base times height. Now because your base is a square, you're going to do length times width, and you're going to multiply it by the height. But because all 3 of those are 5, that's the same thing as just doing 5 cubed, which is why a lot of times you see the volume for a cube as just side cubed. So the volume of this cube is 125 millimeters cubed. For this solid, our base might look like a rectangle at first, but if you notice, it's not a rectangle at the top. Our base is actually the triangle in the front because it's a triangle through and through. The base doesn't always have to be top to bottom. It can be front to back. So a triangle that has a base of 7 and a height of 8 has been stacked 3 times. So the volume is still the area of the base times the height, but because the base is a triangle, it's half times the length times the width of our triangle. Typically known as half times the base times the height of the triangle. It's just with the double bases and the double heights that can get confusing. So I just stick with the terms length times width. And you're multiplying that by the height of the prism. For the area of the triangle, it's 1/2 times 8 times 7. And that's been stacked 3 times. That equals a total volume of 84 cubic meters. This one is also an example of a triangular prism because we have a triangle through and through. So the triangle is what's being stacked. Now because the base is a triangle, when we go to find the area of that, we don't actually have the height of this triangle. The height's always perpendicular to the base. So this is actually the slant height, not the height of our triangle. So I'm going to move that 5 to the other side over here, and I'm going to split that 8 in half. I'm going to use this little right triangle to find the height. So using Pythagorean theorem, we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the height of our triangle is actually 3. Okay, now that we have our height, we can find the area of our triangle doing the half times the length times the width times the height of the prism. So it's 1/2 times the whole length of 8 times the height or the width of 3. And then that triangle has been stacked 10 times. So multiply by 10. So we have a total volume of 120 cubic meters. So again, this is a perfect example of the importance of knowing what kind of solid you're looking at, recognizing the base, and then knowing how to take the area of that base. Moving on to our last example is the cylinder, where the base is this circle through and through. And in this case, it's a circle with a radius of 2 that's been stacked 12 times. So the area for a circle is pi r squared. So we're going to do pi times 2 squared times 12. And that's a total volume of 150.8 centimeters cubed. So all of these solids have the same general volume formula, the area of the base times the height. So if you know how to find the area of a rectangle, a square, a triangle, and a circle, then you can find the volume of any prism or cylinder.